doing this?
Oh, I've got furniture coming soon, and I was just like, oh no, what time are they coming? But they should be here 45 minutes to an hour, so we should have
Awesome.
plenty.
Well, we're live now.
Oh, it's all of my business. Getting
It's
new
all
furniture.
good. You're getting some furniture.
Yeah. Time for a do-over, makeover.
I love that. It's a nice time. So we're here on whatever platform you're watching. I think we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube right now.
Wow.
And I have a friend of mine, Mirella, is here from Australia. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
So yes, thank you for doing this call with me. So my name is Mirella Boni. I'm a relationship counselling specialist here in Queensland, Australia. And I'm going to be interviewing Tiffany today about all the good stuff that she does. So this is going to be really good for you if you're in a couple and having communication issues, intimacy issues. Actually, I'm going to let Tiffany talk about all of that. But so I met Tiffany last year, I think, through our mastermind group. We're doing another program together. We met live in Palm Springs.
Yes.
That was pretty cool. Anyway, so I wanted to interview Tiffany to talk about some of the stuff that I work with, but it's not really my area. So I thought we'd talk to Tiffany and she can give us some good tips on what are we talking about today? Let's start with you.
You know what we were talking about the other day that really I was like, oh, we need to do this, is because when you mentioned that about couples who work together or have businesses together, and that gives, that's such a strain. It can be great because you share everything, but also it can be really stressful on a relationship.
Yeah, for sure, because you're trying to get everything out of that one person. And if things are not good at home, they're going to work. If they're not good at work, they're coming home. And
Yes.
In terms of communication issues, if you can't talk to your partner very well, it trickles down to the way that you talk to your staff. And then we just start losing respect for each other. And then we have the intimacy issues, which is where you come in.
For sure. Absolutely.
So why don't you tell us what you actually specialize in? What do you do?
I really specialize in helping women and couples become more connected. So as women, putting themselves first so that they can flip on their pleasure switch and embrace their bodies so that they can connect more to their partners and create more intimacy, more passion, and more pleasure in their lives. And I have a full line of body safe, non-toxic sex products, of pleasure objects. I do retreats for both women and couples, and I have courses, and I do private coaching.
Okay, so there's plenty of ways to work with you.
Yes, plenty of ways.
So I want to dive in and I want to ask you some questions that I think our audiences would really love to hear the answers on. So my first question is, why do women lose interest in sex? What's the most common reasons that you hear?
I call it the orgasm trifecta, which is kind of why you either are turned on or turned off. And it's not just one thing. It's a combination of that mental, emotional piece, hormones, and your physical body and what's going on there. And a lot of times that means painful sex. And that's probably what women come to me most for, is that sex is painful. And then they are not feeling good afterwards. They shy away from doing it again because they don't want to do something that hurts.
Okay, well, that makes sense. But I do want to go a bit deeper on that.
Yeah.
Would you say that the women who are saying that it's painful for them, would you say that they're actually into it? They actually want to have sex with their partner? Or it's like they got to take one for the team, they got to get it done, partner's going to chuck the shits after like third day, missing out kind of thing? Like, are they just doing it because they need to do it and get it done, or they actually want to have sex and it still hurts?
I think it's probably the first one, that they are just, it's a checklist. Like, oh, we haven't done it for a while, let's get it done, and I'll suffer through it. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be painful. There's so many options to, and it should be something you want to do, that you desire and that you want. And women can have more sex and better sex drives than a lot of men. And a lot of times we don't talk about that.
Right. So why don't they want to have sex?
Well, if they're working together and they're mad at,
like that, the desire part, what's happening with the desire?
that's part of that mental piece of, like, if you're irritated with your partner or they did something to piss you off, there's usually a lot of resentment built up in relationships because people don't know how to communicate.
Right.
And so the dishes weren't done or the trash wasn't taken out. And so I'm going to withhold sex from you because I don't feel like I should do anything for you if you're not doing what you should do. And, I know for me in my own relationship right now, I used to be like, I can't believe that, no, you're not having sex. Like, you're such a good dude. And now I'm like, you're so fucking annoying that I just don't even know if I want to have sex with you anymore.
If you're watching, don't listen to her.
But we don't just let it go there. We talk about those kinds of things, and we don't say, oh, I don't like, why are these things annoying me, and what do we do about them? We don't just, we've been together over 10 years, so we talk about it and we work through it. I don't let those things go so that I don't want to have sex with him.
So then, so you would agree then that women do keep the list, that they keep
yes.
all day. Were they nice to me? Did they do this? Did they do that? And so by the end of the night, actually probably not by the end of the night, but somewhere during the day, they've determined whether they're going to have sex with their partner or not. Whereas for a guy, it's just like, it's 8 o'clock, let's go. Like, they're not really scoring anything, are they? They're just going with their feelings or their needs or whatever. But we are more mental, in a good way. I mean, like, we overthink everything.
Well, for women, arousal begins in the brain. And for men, arousal begins with blood flow to the genitals. So it's very, very different. The female version of Viagra works very different on the body. It works on the brain instead of the male version works on blood flow. So it's very different. We women have a circular brain that we're thinking about everything that's going around all the time, everything that's happened in our life, everything that's happened in the day. And men have a very linear brain that's compartmentalized. And so they're like, oh, work, it's over here. Now I'm home having sex. And I think men do a better job of setting boundaries of their day. And when they come home from work, I mean, I've seen my partners do it. I've seen my dad do it. Grandpa, they come home from work and they change their clothes and they put their cufflinks in their watch on a thing. They empty out their pockets and they put on casual clothes. And I think women, we don't really do that. We just go on with our day. Like, we don't have that start and stop of the home life and the work life.
And I think a lot of men are men are getting really good at helping out more at home because, we've heard about the 5 love languages and, what you should do to make your partner happy. And I think that men are like getting a lot better at that, but there's still that real difference in what you're saying where they can stop and be ready for their next part of their day without carrying on from before. Whereas women, we're trying to do everything at once and it's, we're exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
So by the end of the day, when we've got this much left in the tank, we want to use that for ourselves, whatever that's going to be, rather than giving more when we feel like we've been giving all day.
I was just on a call with a customer and I was explaining that to her, that her partner was complaining that she wasn't initiating anymore and that she didn't seem as, happy and as juicy and vibrant. And, she has chronic pain issues, and we were talking. I'm like, your take is completely empty. You have absolutely nothing to give now, and everybody's still expecting you to give. And so that's where we have to start, is to refresh our tanks and take time for ourselves as women so that we can be the best that we can be for everybody else that depends on us.
Yeah.
And for yourself, because you just are stronger, more confident, happier, healthier.
Right. And I think in terms of communication, because women feel bad as well, like they don't really want to say no and upset their partner, but because it's a continual expectation, they have to come up with new excuses, new reasons why. They're sore, they're tired, they've got a lot of work on. There's 101 reasons why they can't do it tonight. When really, all it comes down to is like a bit. Well, this is what I talk to my clients about. It's just the pre-frame. Just say, it's not you. It's not that I don't love you or I don't care about you. I'm just not into it tonight. And if you can just be honest with that, it stops all the stories that the other person's going to be saying in their head as to why, oh, they're not attracted to me anymore. This is never going to happen anymore. All that sort of stuff, when really it just comes down to the woman's not into it tonight. And if you can just accept that and it's not about you, then the next day is the next day. We don't have to carry it over or hold that, the moods that go with it.
Well, because that begins to be a resentment also for the male partner, that like, oh, if every time I ask, I get turned down, so I'm going to just stop asking. And then I'm just going to be angry all the time because I'm not having sex, or I'm going to go outside of my relationship to get my needs fulfilled physically.
Right.
And, with libido, the way that it works, and so for women, if you don't feel like having sex because you don't have any libido, then you kind of stop having sex, and then you have less testosterone in your system. And so then you have less of a sex drive as well. And so if you can self-pleasure to get yourself in the mood and to boost your testosterone, that you may then start to feel like having sex more often, because you're going to have more of those hormones going through your bloodstream and through your system.
You mentioned some stuff on your website I was reading ages ago, and you were saying that there's a lot of guilt and shame around sex. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. As women, I think most of us are told from society that sex is something that is going to come with a consequence, and that good girls don't touch themselves. They don't, if you have sex before marriage or before you're ready, you're going to get pregnant, you're going to get a disease, you're going to have a bad reputation. And those messages continue through our lives, even when we're like, I love this person, I want to have sex, I want to have fun, but I've been told my whole life that it's not a good thing. And that messaging is very different for young men. They don't get that messaging. That it's just completely opposite. That we never have the conversation about pleasure with young women either. Boys get taught how to masturbate pretty much like by their friends and their dads and everything. And girls, most girls get shamed for masturbating. I mean, I've had clients tell me horrific stories about, the way that they were talked to by their church, by their grandparents, by their parents about self-pleasure.
And is that something that you can help people move through? Like, is that like a massive journey to get past the shame, or is that something that can be worked on fairly quickly?
It can be worked on fairly quickly. I use a modality called emotional freedom technique, EFT. It's tapping on the meridians of the body, of the acupressure meridians, and it really helps to clean out and to disarm those shame and traumas from the cellular level in the body, and then to reprogram in positive outcomes of what wants to happen. And it's really, really powerful, and it works very quickly.
I've heard good things about EFT. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, people use that to quit smoking and all sorts of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I use it for myself, for depression, for, you know, reprogramming my thoughts about money and the shame around money and all of that too.
Right.
Bad relationships, traumas, sexual abuse. I've used it with clients. There's all kinds of things that can be used for. It's pretty amazing. A lot of PTSD based traumas.
Yeah. So this might be a big answer. I only want your top three things that men do that turn women off. I watched your live on this once, and I think you had seven or eight. I just want your top three. So men
Okay.
listening and don't do this.
I would say that what I hear from women my age the most right now is that their husbands are like come up behind them and go, while they're like in the kitchen or something. And they're acting like they're teenagers and we're all 50 years old.
Okay. All right. So that's number one. No humping when you're doing
don't act like a teenager, men.
Yep. Okay.
You know, there's so many. I don't know.
You can give me more than three.
You know, treating our bodies like it's just a vessel for your needs, or, you know, things like that. Like really appreciating your partner's body instead of just thinking that it's like a sperm receptacle for you to have pleasure. Make sure your partner has pleasure also. And then, you know, probably the last one is, you know, that fast pumping rabbit style sex. Most women don't like that. Men think that that's what it is. But that, you know, be slow and sensual. Most women like that better.
Okay. So sensual. You're talking about being sensual, not being fast.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because the guy's going to try and win. They're used to being
Not a
competitive.
race.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay.
And you know, like another one, a big one is with not doing any foreplay. Like because men don't need much foreplay, a lot of men think, and because of porn, they don't really see foreplay. Most women need an average of 24 minutes of foreplay to have optimal orgasm and even to be ready for penetrative sex.
Wow.
24 minutes.
That's a long time.
Yes.
Men really do have it easy for themselves, don't they?
Yes. But that foreplay can be, you know, when you're really connected and things are going well. If you're flirting throughout the day, Esther Perel, who I love, says, you know, foreplay is from the end of one experience to the next. And when you're flirting throughout the day and keeping things exciting and having fun with each other, then it's not a start and stop. It's just a fluid motion, that it doesn't have to be necessarily physical foreplay. It can be mental foreplay. It can be listening to an erotic book on your way home from work. You know, things like that can be foreplay as well.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be 24 minutes in the moment.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I would really love to hear your opinion on men and women who so they're a couple, not necessarily running a business together, but they have completely different time clocks. So one person's the night owl and the other one's the early riser. So we're going to bed at different times. We're working different times. And that seems to be one of the biggest things that I hear in the counselling room as to why they're not having sex and why, you know, like you said, then it builds resentment and all that. But they're all saying that they're time poor. They either don't have time or their partner's up watching Netflix and they're going to watch that next episode, while the other one's like, come on. And so it's not happening.
When I work with couples about time differences like that and different desires, and find something in the middle, sex doesn't have to be first thing in the morning or the last thing at night. It can be something that you do when you get off of work, when you first get home, instead of before instead of cooking dinner first, go get frisky first. And then your evening's going to go better, first of all. But, if there's a time that you are together with your schedules work like that, have it then and schedule it. I know it sounds unromantic to put it on the calendar, but it's something to look forward to. And that doesn't mean it has to be the only time that you have sex, but it can be the time that you look forward to, like a date. When we first started dating, when we had a date, that's kind of when we knew we were going to have sex. We got to have time to get ready, time to get into that mental groove of that we're going to be with someone and be intimate tonight. We shave our legs, we get ready, we have that dedicated time for the person. And as we go through our marriages and relationships, we don't keep those commitments of time with the other person that are just dedicated for each other.
I really like the way that you said that when you're putting it on your calendar, it's something to look forward to, because most people put it on the calendar and look like it's a job, and they almost get offended, because I'll talk about that sort of stuff too. And some people get offended, like, well, if it has to be like that, what's the point? And well, the point is that it's not happening anyway. So let's work out some solutions, because, it sounds like a no-brainer to say, oh, well, we can do it in lunch break. We can do it as soon as we get home. We don't have to wait till the end of the night. But what sounds like a no-brainer, it's not happening. There is no negotiation. And if you're going to wait until that last episode of Netflix and then go to that next, it's almost as an excuse. Because if I was to say to someone, well, do it before you start watching Netflix, the look of horror on their face, and it's like, yes, because that was your blanket excuse.
Right.
I'll just this one, knowing that it was going to continue on for at least an hour, knowing that the guy's going to pass out asleep, and then knowing that you have to dodge their mood in the morning, and I think that's something that we have to get honest with ourselves on, the excuses that we're using, instead of just being honest and saying, you know what, I just don't want to do anything tonight. I want to lay back. I just want to watch TV and forget about my day. Great. Well, that's not personal to your partner. It's not because you don't find them attractive anymore or anything like that. It's just you had a shit day. You want to just numb yourself out. There's nothing wrong with it, as long as your partner knows, they get a heads up that it's not about them.
Right. When you mentioned the Netflix thing, I was like, that's pretty much an excuse because otherwise, if you're, I think sometimes we look at sex as like, oh, it's something to check off the list. Well, maybe it is, but when you do it, you always, most of the time, feel better that you did it and are glad you did it. And it's just like eating right or going to the gym. I don't want to do it, but I do feel better when I do it.
Yeah, and it's not all the time that you don't want to, but I think, right, if you're not doing it at all and you've come up with these excuses that just become the norm now, where we just don't do it. Like, I have people come in here who say, it's been 6 years. 6 years. That doesn't even make sense. I'm thinking, how do you get away with it for that long? Anyway, but really, if it's not happening, you're becoming roommates. Yes. What kind of connection do you expect to have? And yes, you can be best friends, and that's beautiful. That's lovely. But that's probably not what you signed up for. And sex is a human need. It's going to be met somehow.
Yes.
Somehow it's going to be met. And I think, I won't go into the affairs or anything like that. That's a whole new session right there. But I think, it needs to happen if you want to be that connected couple. Otherwise, own the fact that, we are best friends. We're best friends, but we're not that couple.
Right.
I mean, it's the one thing that separates you from every other relationship that you have, because you're only doing those things with that person. And there's all that trust. There's trust, communication, quality time. There's all those things that are going into having sex that you're not doing with somebody else. So if it's not happening, you can't expect to have this beautiful, loving, romantic relationship, because it's not there. You've trained each other to be best friends. Like I said, that's great. That's great if you want to live with your best friend. That's perfect. But if you're wanting more, then something has to change.
Well, and the intimacy can be so beautiful, and that connection. We all need human touch. We all need intimacy. Sex is a basic need. And it just makes your relationship, like you said, be a relationship versus a friendship. I call sex life's lubricant because it just makes everything better. You know, if you think back of when your relationship was really, really good, I bet it was when you were having lots of sex, because your endorphins and hormones and neurochemicals are just floating around, and they put you at ease. They reduce stress. It gives you a joy and an uplift. And then when those things happen that are those everyday things, like something went wrong at work and, or the trash wasn't taken out, those things don't matter when you're really connected sexually. You'll be like, why was I even worrying about that? Like, who cares? Let's go get it on.
And I think you touched on it earlier, that sex can be used for that punishment and reward type system. And the problem with that is then you become like that dynamic where someone's in charge and you're watching for the other person to do the right thing, or to fail. It's not a good dynamic, and it's someone's holding too much power. And sex is not supposed to have power over somebody. It's supposed to be something that you do together because you want to do it and you enjoy it, not because it's you did the right thing, you did something nice, okay, we're going to do it. Like, that's shit.
Correct. It should be something you want to do. And if you don't want to do it, then let's find out why you don't want to do it. Because it could be as easy and as that you've never had great sex. When women tell me, oh, I could care less if I ever have sex again, I'm like, then you haven't been having enough really good sex.
Right.
Because once you do, you're like, oh, I can do this. And a lot of times it starts with learning about your body. If you don't self-pleasure on a regular basis, it's really hard to communicate those needs and wants and desires to someone else. If you don't even know what turns you on and makes you tick, think about what your fantasies are. Think about what you like to think, what really turns you on, but also what turns you off. And, work on removing those things from your life.
I think that's the key there, though. I think when when you get to a certain, when you get to a certain point in your relationship, you start looking for all the things that turn you off. So you've got that wall and you don't have to do it because they did this or they did that. And again, it's a self-destructive path. And I think when people say they want to, they just want to get back to what they used to be. They want to get back to when they felt loved and they had that great connection. And you're right, it's because they were being intimate. And these people are the ones that are saying they haven't had sex for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. Well, how do you expect to have a closeness with someone if you're not being close? And on top of that, with the rejection, the constant rejection, and why you don't want to, and especially if you're giving excuses why you don't want to. No, because of just this. No, because of that. Like, all that person's hearing is, you don't want me anymore. And they will find it. They will find someone who wants them for them. And, like I said, then that just leads into all the affairs and stuff, which is a different conversation. And that's not a threat. I'm not saying that as a threat. If you don't have sex, they're going to go and do it. But what I'm saying is it's a human need, and at some point it will be met. And it's not always a conscious choice. Things happen. And yes, I know that's people probably thinking, no, it's not an accident when you have an affair. But what I am saying is feelings grow, and you don't choose to have feelings for someone. But when someone acknowledges you and makes you feel attractive and wanted, it's very easy to feel addicted to that feeling and want to keep pursuing it. So unconscious becomes conscious.
Yeah, everybody wants to feel important and wanted and desired. And do that with your partner. Make them feel like men have such fragile egos. They really want to feel like a king, and it doesn't take much to do that.
So do you have any tips on how to do that?
Yes, depending on what their love language is, just
Okay.
make sure you do things for each other, that you take those grudges and those checklists and just throw them away and say, you know what, you're the person I love. And you know what, if you have it, I mean, take the love languages quiz online, it's free. That's a great start. So if it's verbal praise, if they're of affirmations, leave them little notes saying, you're a sexy beast, or, pinch them on the butt. If they like physical touch, give them a hand massage. Little gifts if that's what they want, if that's what their love language is. Carve out 5 minutes of your day where you're not watching Netflix and you're just paying attention to them.
Yeah.
And that goes both ways. It doesn't take much to really connect with each other. And that's outside of the bedroom, outside of work. Just connect with each other and remember how it was when you first met each other.
And I think the biggest thing about that is you have to want to do it. Like you have to want to send that nice message. You have to want to give them a kiss and hug when you see them walk in the door. If you're doing it to tick the list, that person can feel that, and that can feel worse than not having that hug or kiss. So, I think ultimately it still comes down to you have to want your partner. And if you don't, then I think that's a different conversation that you need to have with yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think men want to feel appreciated for all that they do. Because old school, they are really still just working, providing. That's their core thing that they do for women. But women also understand that they're going to be doing that whether they're with them or not. Still going to be working and earning money, whether you're there or not. So for men, it's not enough to just do that. But because they are doing that, they need to feel appreciated. And women need to feel appreciated for the work that they do that's often unpaid.
Yes.
Yeah,
And so often unappreciated. I saw a TikTok yesterday about with a mom, and she's like, "Oh, my husband gets stopped at the grocery store like 3 or 4 times, telling him what a good dad he is because he took his 2 boys to the grocery store." She's like, "I take my 2 boys to the grocery store every week for my whole life, and no one ever says, 'Oh my gosh, you're such a good mom. You took your kids with you.'"
Yeah, that's true. And then that builds resentment when the guy's just trying to do something good, but because he gets recognized for it, he's almost in trouble for it.
But also recognize your wife does a lot behind the scenes that you don't even know. You show up and it's done. It really appreciate each other and what each other brings to the table, what they put forth, who they are. And I know that it can be difficult for a lot of men right now because we are women who work and provide for ourselves and don't need anyone, but make each other want each other, not need.
Right.
And you're setting those examples for your children and for the next generations of, really being that couple that doesn't bicker. It's much more fun to be that couple that is like all lovey-dovey instead of the couple that is fighting and bickering all the time, and that nobody wants to be around that.
So I wanted to ask you, if someone's watching here and they're having intimacy issues, either personally for themselves because they've gone through traumas or they've lost interest in their partner and they want to know how to get that back, or couples who have heard this and realised, yeah, we've become good mates, but we really want more. What's the first step that they would take to reach out or to work with you?
Well, reach out to me wherever you're watching this video and private message. And if you want to just go ahead and book a Power of Pleasure call with me, we can discuss, any issues or concerns that you have. It's tiffanyelverton.com/PC, and you can book a call right there. And I have upcoming courses for women coming up. I have a couples retreat coming up next year. We're adding a lot of different things. I'm doing it's mid-year. It's a great time to check in on your relationship. And if you go, oh, it has been a month, 6 months, 6 years since we've had sex, let's really take a deep dive into your relationship and do an evaluation to see what we can do to change things.
Yeah, well, it has to start somewhere. Someone has to take that first awkward step.
Yes.
But then once that's decided and done, it's all good from there, because things will change.
They will.
You just have to have the courage to take that first step.
And once people, work with a professional like us, it changes their lives. People hire coaches and specialists and trainers and all their other areas of their life, and they forget about it for their relationship, and they wait till it's too late. And this is something to invest in, instead of, maybe you don't get to take the trip that you were going to take, but you save your marriage. That's a big thing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And what's at risk is far more than paying for a consultation to see how we can save it. Like, what's at risk when you've been together for years and you've got kids and you've got assets, and not only that you've invested in that person and still wanting them to be your person, just not knowing how to turn it around. I think the good news is you don't need to know how to turn it around. You just need to know that you want to turn it around, and then you go and get the help accordingly.
Yeah, we're here to help you, to tell you what to do, and to give you the help that you need. You just have to take the first step and say, hey, this is worth saving.
Exactly.
This is something I want to make better, instead of, because it's not going to get better if you don't do anything. It's, we try that. We all know what happens then when you don't take any, whether it's your health or whatever, if you don't take those steps to make a change, then it goes down really fast.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for talking with me today. I've really enjoyed it, and I think we might do this again, and we might go a bit deeper into some other topics, because I think it's really helpful for people to be able to catch one of these videos and realize, like, just learn a few tools, and even just to get the conversation going in their own mind and bring it to their partner, even that's a good first step.
Absolutely. And how can people get a hold of you?
Well, I'm going to be able to help them with their communication skills, getting their connection back, resolving issues that they haven't been able to resolve forever. And same for me. You can just reach out through Messenger, and we can set a time to talk.
Well, thank you for this. This is really fun.
All right, I'll talk with you again.
I look forward to it more. So, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great day, night, whenever you're watching, and reach out if you have questions or you want to change what's going on. If you just even want us to take a look of what you can make some changes, where you can make some changes just to improve your life.
Sure. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.